Hi, welcome to the Grind Academy podcast. My name's Rob Patterson and I'm the former CEO from the hotel industry who turned the comfort of that life in to become an entrepreneur. Today I own several successful startups across various industries including retail, technology, property and lifestyle. If I can do all that coming from a tiny outback town in Australia, then anyone can do it. On my journey from becoming CEO of a large organisation to entrepreneurship, I became fascinated with what it takes to perform at your peak. Each week, I'm introducing some of the most inspiring and talented minds from sport, business, literature, and science to understand just what it takes. Thanks for joining the podcast. Now let's meet today's special guest. Today's guest is former NFL Superbowl Champion and outside linebacker for the Green Bay Packers, Mike Neal. Mike was raised in Northwest Indiana, attending Purdue University from 2005 to 2009. After redshirting his first year, Mike played 9 games in his sophomore year, missing 5 games through injury. From 2007 to 2009, Mike played all games and ranked second for sacks in his final 2 years. Mike was subsequently taken in the second round of the NFL draft by the Green Bay Packers in 2010. The same year, the Green Bay Packers became Super Bowl champions. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. In his first 3 years in the NFL, Mike faced back-to-back adversities, including multiple surgeries and a suspension, before dominating for the Packers from 2013 to 2016. Today, we'll learn what it takes to fight through such adversity over that many years and how trusting the process delivered absolute peak performance. We'll also hear what life is like post-football and how Mike had to apply the same discipline and savage mentality in business to achieve success. Mike, welcome to Grind Academy. Sincerely, thank you for coming on the show today, man. I appreciate you for that. The first thing I want to know is, who was your greatest teacher growing up? It doesn't have to be a school teacher, but who provided the greatest education for Mike Neal in the early years?
I would have to probably put that on my parents. I think that growing up in Northwest Indiana, and particularly Gary, Indiana, as a young kid, with everything that Gary has and opportunities that it did at the same time, it was a little rough. You know, you had to be shielded from that environment. You had to understand what life was really about. And my parents became my biggest teachers just in life in general, from everything from life to sacrificing, to hard work, to just absolutely everything. So my parents would probably be the heaviest influence on my life as far as a teacher and a role model type, people that I needed to be around.
Yeah, cool. So I'm in Maryville now. I'm in the area, and I hear a lot about the Neal family, and I always hear it's a very good family, and a strong family unit. What does family mean to you?
Everything. I mean, just even you talking about it gives me chill bumps. And even to this day, like even on this call right now, I'm in a family chat. All my relatives, the 5 of us siblings, my 2 parents, we talk almost absolutely every single day without a question. And that's my backbone. When people talk about whys and why do you do things and how do you do things and how do you sustain that energy and then that focus and you stay on that path, I think that my parents and my family was my backbone. I did absolutely everything that I could for them. I understood the position that we were in as a family, as a young person, growing up into adulthood. And the only thing that I wanted to do was always give back. I watched my parents break their backs to provide for us and struggle for us. And, I wanted to give that back. I wanted to pay it forward. And then also to be a role model to my younger siblings. My brothers always looked up to me. And I knew that if I can do one thing right, it's always to be a leader, to be an influencer, and then to influence them to be able to do the right thing. So I carried that weight on my shoulders. But, a God-fearing family, Christian family, we grew up in a church. And they're my everything, honestly, still to this day.
Yeah, amen to that. Listen, so after a decent run at Purdue University, you were drafted to the Green Bay Packers, and the Packers win the Super Bowl in your first year. How did it feel to be a Super Bowl champion in your rookie year?
I appreciate you asking me that, Rob, and I have to tell everybody 100% of the truth. It was bittersweet. Coming from Purdue, the road into the NFL was rocky. I had to work for it. There was a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice that went behind that. Then to be able to get drafted in the second round to Green Bay, there was a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice behind that as well, because nobody expected for me to get drafted that high. And then there was a lot of question as to why Green Bay took a defensive tackle in the second round when they needed a whole bunch more positions filled. And then to get there, to have the opportunity to start and then to get hurt. I was placed on IR after the fourth game of the season. And that was very rough for me. But, the caveat to that is how many people actually get a chance to play on a Super Bowl team? So just to have that experience, to go through the playoffs, to be on a team that won, to be on a team that won it with literally almost all backups, to be part of, one of Aaron Rodgers' greatest feats in the NFL, him being one of the top elite players for as long as he has been, it's been nothing but, bittersweet for me. I enjoyed it. It was rough. I wanted to be actually in the game, but to have a Super Bowl champion attached to my name and have the ring, that's definitely an honor, man. So it was cool. And now I can actually wear it with pride, but for a long time it stained me. So.
Well, hey, man, they're having a cracking season again, and Aaron Rodgers is doing his thing. So let's see. Yeah. I mean, speaking of the Green Bay Packers, coming from this area, there's big rivalry, right, between Green Bay and Chicago. How did that float with your family?
It was the funniest thing ever. So I can remember like it was yesterday. Draft day, I get a call from the Bears. Actually, so now they split the draft. So you have the first round on one day, second and third on another one, and then the rest of the rounds the next day. So the second and third round draft that day, the Bears ended up calling me and they're like, hey, listen, we don't have a pick to the third round, but if you're available, we're going to take you. You fit everything that we want in defense. Jeff Shiver was the name of the scout. I talked to him almost every single day leading up to the draft. That was a plan. I was actually going to be a Bear. Nobody knew that. I still have the text messages and everything in my phone. And just so happened on that day in the second round, the Packers called me and they're like, hey, we're going to pick you with the 56th pick. Now they were on pick 51. And I'm like, wow. Okay, so this is bittersweet. The same day, my dad had a hat just like this, but it had the Bears logo on it. So when I got drafted, I looked at him. I said, man, now you got to change that hat. He was like, man, I'm confused with the Bears so bad. But, just to have the opportunity, that's all you can ever ask for. So my family didn't even care. Immediately, it was like, just to have that opportunity, that luxury to be afforded that meant the world to us. So we quickly flipped into Green Bay Packers fans. But either way you have it, I really was never a Bears fan. I just was a fan of successful players, and that's what I mimicked. So I really didn't care who I went to. I just wanted that opportunity.
Yeah, well, I want to talk to you about success a bit later on, especially post-football in business. But before we get there, you mentioned being on the injury reserve list and had to work your way back from there. What did it take to fight your way back to NFL fitness from that place?
So a little bit more of a background. I had 13 surgeries over my career, from college all the way through the NFL. I think I had the brunt of those surgeries in the NFL, and the first one coming the Super Bowl year. And I had a shoulder. I completely tore everything out of my shoulder. And luckily enough, we got locked out that year. So it was new CBA up. We got locked out. So I had the time and I rehabbed like crazy. I came back. I was in great shape. 2 weeks into that training camp, I tripped over a bag, subluxed my kneecap. And for about 6 weeks, they could not figure out what was going on. And at that point in time, being 22 years old, they're telling me like, look, you can either have this surgery that's going to put you out for a year and a half, or you can retire, because typically what happens is that cartilage that you lost on that kneecap doesn't grow back and you'll be very arthritic. So that was tough for me. So every season I was in the NFL, I had a surgery. And to bounce back from those, you always look at it as like, why me? Like, why do I have to keep going through this? Why do I have to play through this pain? But I think that if you can stand through those times where it's difficult, you develop a character, right? And that character trait that you develop becomes a habit. So I just had a habit of understanding that every single time I got hurt, this was just another test for me to pass, to prove that you can play at a high level through these injuries and you can't be defeated. So the first 2 times were very, very rough for me. But after that, it just became something like, well, this is just what you do. So it was tough. It took a lot of work. I mean, my workout regimen when I was here in Florida, because that's where I came at after the season, very long, grueling days, man, for months to be honest with you. But, I stuck after it because that's the basis of who I am. And, to be able to bounce back from those surgeries and then play a long career is definitely a blessing.
Yeah, I love what you say about creating habits. Paula Radcliffe, the British marathon runner, talks about visualizing her recovery from injury. And it wasn't just recovery she visualized. As the story goes, she had a picture of the New York Marathon finish line posted next to her bed since she was a little girl. And she ended up winning the marathon 3 times and held the record for something like 16 years. Is that something you can relate to? Do you practice visualizing your own success?
A lot. It really started to show its light toward the end of my career when I kept dealing with the injuries. But I think, we talked about a little bit before this is the why. It's not what, it's the why. Um, and my story is so simple, man. My mom had cancer. She was diagnosed with cancer when I was a sophomore in high school, and it had gotten really, really bad my rookie year in NFL. And she couldn't work. My dad was the only person working. I had my brothers there and my sister, and it was like, okay, no matter how bad this injury is, I have an obligation, and that's to make sure that I can provide for my family. So it wasn't, to me, I really didn't care about the injury. It was just, why am I doing this? And this is to be able to break all those generational curses or things that we had as a family that held us down. So I was able to do that because I kept that near and dear to my heart, just my family. It was always the reason why I pushed. The name on your back. You hear people say that all the time. I wore it with pride because I knew I was built to something that most people wasn't. So to be able to take on those hurdles and overcome them became nothing, because I knew that if my mom can fight cancer, I can fight an injury. This is her life versus me bouncing back from injury. So that was one of the things that kept me going. And I think, like you said before, I knew what I wanted to be. I knew what my end goal was. And I knew that if I can play a healthy season, what I could be. And so just knowing that I hadn't even reached the tipping point, I'm like, I still got a lot to give. And because I knew I did, I never in my life thought about quitting it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So is 2013 then the year that it all pays back? Is that the year that it all happened for you?
Yeah, and you right on the head, to be honest with you. 2013. Actually, this is man, we can dig really, really deep into this. In 2013, coming back into that season, I was suspended the first 4 games of that season for performance enhancing drugs. And it was actually just a prescription that I actually legally had, but the NFL implemented a rule in 2010, which was my rookie year, that you actually had to have a script from the NFL. So no outside doctor can give this to you. I didn't know that. I was just a rookie. So I never paid attention to it. And then finally in 2013, they're like, hey, were you taking this medication? It was literally just Adderall, it was medication. I'm like, yeah, I've been taking this for, half my life. Okay. And they're like, well, you don't have a TUE exemption from the NFL. And I'm like, I didn't know I had to have one. And so they suspended me going into 2013 for the first 4 games. Well, at that point, I had been hurt for 2 seasons prior, and then being suspended going into 2013.
Man.
When I came back, they treated me like I wasn't there. So I had to go through training camp, 6 weeks. I got 1 rep in every practice. They would put me in the fourth quarter of every preseason game. And mentally, it destroyed me because I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So when you get suspended in the NFL, you can't be around the team. So I left right when the season started, came to Tampa, and every day is probably when I developed just a savage mentality. I woke up every day at 3:30, and I wouldn't leave the training facility to 6 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 days a week for the next 3 weeks until I had to go back to Green Bay. And then when I got back, my entryway into the door, they're like, hey, you got till Saturday. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Well, your backup's been outperforming you, so you have till Saturday. It's either going to be between you or your backup. Said, okay. Well, I was prepared for that because I was already pissed off, and I came in and I won my position back and ended up being in the top 3 at my position in the league that year, 5.5 sacks. I led the team in quarterback hits, pressures, and sacks combined. Even though I played with Clay Matthews, a lot of people really don't understand that. That was the best season of my career, and it took off for me then. That's when it all came together.
Yeah, man. I mean, getting up at 3:30 in the morning to start training. Well, I mean, straight into the gym? What was your morning routine?
And it hasn't changed. But I would get up 3:30 in the morning. I've always been somebody that listens to some type of Christian or gospel music. We'll get up, read, listen to gospel music, get prepared, call my trainer. Hey, listen, he would work out with me too. So a lot of people don't know that my trainer, I asked him, like, what time could you be here? He was like, I get up at 3:30. I said, well, I get up at 3:30. He was like, I could be here at 4:30. So my trainer, the whole time I was in the NFL, would drive an hour to the workout facility, and that's where he worked at. So I said, well, be here at 4:30. We'll start at 4:30 in the morning. So I would go into the weight room, turn the temperature up to 100 degrees, and he would be pissed. Like, why are you doing that? I'm like, because I just need to know what it feels like. I got a lot of stuff in me. I got to get it out. So I would turn the temperature up to 100 degrees and close all the doors. And that would be workout number one. We would start at 4:30 in the morning, and then we would work out. I'll take like an hour break, come back and get at it again, take another hour break, and then do a conditioning session at the end of that. So, and that was religiously for literally almost every day for 3 weeks. So,
Wow.
Yeah, I was just addicted to it, man. I had a lot of anger, frustration to get out. So,
I mean, it's one punch after another, isn't it? I mean, 2 years out with injury and then coming back in suspension for something you weren't even aware of. It's one punch after the other, but you went on to have a pretty phenomenal season that year.
Absolutely, man. You have to. I mean, you have to keep the main thing the main thing. And I was a professional. I knew that. I got drafted for a reason. So I wore that with pride and took it to the field.
So fast forward to December 2014. Late in the season, you're playing the formidable New England Patriots. I think they'd won 7 in a row, scoring an average of around 40 points a game. It's late in the fourth. They've driven down the field and reached the 20-yard line, holding a 5-point lead over the Packers. The ball's about to be snapped to Tom Brady on 3rd and 9. What's going through your mind in that moment?
Well, to paint this picture even clearly for you, so you talked about visualization, and I don't think that people know the steps in visualization. So that game, they were the number one offense in the AFC. We were number one offense in the NFC. They called this the pre-Super Bowl showdown because they kind of deemed both of us going to the Super Bowl that year. And just throughout the course of that game, I'm lining up against 2 offensive tackles who are literally 4 inches taller than me, with extremely long arms. But I literally was beating them every single play, like literally just running around them. So if you go back and watch that, I hit Tom about 3 times before I actually sacked him. But I said, well, if I could get to him just a half a second faster, I'll get a sack. So that particular play, I was actually lined up on their sidelines, close to their sidelines. And I just remember when we were out there on the field, my coach, I can see him, like literally you talk about Neal in the Matrix when he looked at those bullets flying at him and everything was slow motion. I looked at the sidelines and I look at my coach and I can see him, somebody's got to make a play. I can read his mouth and it's like I can hear him. And everything slowed down in that moment for me. And I'm like, okay, if I can just get up the field as fast as possible in 5 yards and turn that corner and just literally reach around this guy, I got him. I got him dead to rights. As soon as the ball snapped, it happened so fast that the only thing I saw was number 12. I looked up and there's just 12. And I was able to stick my arm out and grab him just enough to get him to duck. And one of my teammates hit him, and it's a sack. And that sack right there won a ball game for us, to be honest with you, because had we not stopped them and they scored that touchdown, we would have been screwed. But it was probably one of the big. And now the funny thing is, the biggest plays in my life all happened that way. But to sack Tom Brady, to beat New England at home, and that to be the highlight of pretty much my career at the time, switching positions, because I came in the NFL as the defensive tackle and ended up moving outside linebacker. So I ended up losing 60 pounds over the course of my career to play a different position. That was really huge for me. And I remember walking off the field, hugging A-Rod, and he was like, man, you just put a whole bunch of money in your pocket, kid. And I still got the picture of that. And it was a great feeling, man. Everybody went crazy, my coaches, and just the amount of text message and voicemails that I got after the game. It was crazy, man. But it was, to sack a GOAT.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, come on, you sacked the GOAT.
Yeah, like,
that picture should be on your phone. It should be in your car. It should be everywhere.
Oh yeah, I got it everywhere. I mean, even when I moved down here to Florida, I posted it on my social media for the longest. people hated me for it. As soon as he came down here, I posted like crazy and people hated me for it. But, you just don't get those opportunities. And when you do, you cash in on them. And that stuff, you can walk away with that. People go, you sacked Tom Brady? And I'm like, yeah. And when they look at it, they're like, holy shit, like you really did sack Tom Brady.
It's not just the sack, it's the circumstances around it. I mean, man, they had weapons all over the field. They had, I don't think they're on the 20-yard line, right? They just driven down the field. It was a pretty critical.
It was
amazing. Anyway, I had to ask you about that one. I was dying to know. So speaking Tom Brady's in the local area now. You played with arguably if Tom Brady's the GOAT, Aaron Rodgers is not too far behind, right? How was it to play with him, and what type of individual? It's not about him, but what type of individual was he to play with?
You know what? I think that people have a misconception about Aaron now, and that's just kind of, he's a jerk, he's condescending, he's an a-hole, whatever you might have it. But the one thing that you don't really realize is that Aaron plays with a chip on his shoulder, and he will not let that chip go. Not only did he not get drafted where he wanted to in the draft, then he had to come play behind Brett Favre. And, just word around the locker room is that Brett Favre knew what that situation was going to turn into if Aaron never had the opportunity to shine. And he made Aaron's life a living hell in Green Bay for a while. And I think that to this day, that stained Aaron, and he's such a competitor that, even when he just broke the touchdown record, he's not done. And he's not going to stop until he proves it. So to be able to play with somebody with that, type of character and that aura about him is absolutely phenomenal. And just to know him on a personal level, because Aaron's locker was probably 6 or 7 lockers away from mine. And he would tease me every day, Mike, you're always mad. You need to smile. But, I've had a lot of one-on-one conversations with Aaron, and he's helped me through some tough points in my career, and sat down and asked him some really, personal questions about him himself, how he prepares and what he does when he loses, or what does he feel like when it's all falling apart? How does he keep it together? And, just to be able to have that advice coming from a person like that. And then, I had plenty of conversations with Aaron. He's a great guy, man. He's a leader, definitely should be recognized as that. Sometimes he could be a bit selfish, I must admit, but, that just comes with the territory. So to play with him, be recognized, like I said, on the Super Bowl team, one of the teams that won the Super Bowl under his command, just as good as tackling Tom Brady, to be honest with you. You go down in history, and it's like, I played with that guy for 7 years.
Yeah, there is a nonchalance when he's sort of talking to the media, but I had a mentor who used to say to me, you paddle your own canoe, and he definitely paddles his own canoe. He doesn't really, he doesn't follow the crowd, does he? He does his own thing.
Absolutely, man. He's like that. He's a loner, but at the same time, he's a good people person, man. He knows how to make fun of what he needs to, and he's very, very condescending, if I could say anything. He jokes a lot, and it's excellent. Some of those jokes might hit close to home, but he means well.
So coming back to you, in that season, the Pats went on to win the Super Bowl, defeating the Seattle Seahawks, and that's who your brother Ryan is playing for now. He had a really great game the other night against the Bears, actually, although the result didn't go their way. How does it feel watching your brother play now and seeing him do so well?
Actually, I think that it's bittersweet for me, because I think that, when I got drafted, my brother Ryan, the one that's in the NFL now, was sitting right next to me. And he was the one that was like, hey, your phone's ringing. And I'm like, yeah, I know, it's been ringing all day. And he was right next to me when I got that phone call. And then when he got his phone call, he didn't want to be any other place but in my house with me. And that was special for me, because it made me realize that no matter how hard it was for me, and no matter how much I went through, that my hard work, it really influenced him. It influenced everything that he did. And even still to this day, I text him before every game, after every game. I'm either sending him clips or he's sending me clips. I'm coaching him, or he's asking me, what do you look at? How do you read this? And he looks at me like that vet. Like, he comes to me like, help me. I want to get better. What is it that I need to do? And throughout his career, I've been able to, every step of the way, be a positive influence for him. And I think that he realized that if you got drafted second round and you accomplished all this, if I mimic some of what you do, then I'll be in the same position. And I've always told him the goal now is to supersede that, play longer, make more money, be everything that I couldn't be, and don't make the same mistakes that I did. Take care of your body this way. Don't do that. And, it chokes me up a lot. I think the first 2 or 3 years, especially last year when he had the opportunity to start, and he played lights out, I probably cried every single morning because people don't really realize how much that means to influence somebody that heavy, and then to watch them. And still to this day, sometimes he'll call me and ask me a question, and I'm looking at my phone like, I can't believe my little brother is actually calling me to give him advice. And he honors that, man. And it's a special relationship between us, and it's cool. It's really, really cool.
Well, late in the game, he spoiled a pass against the Bears the other day that I thought was fantastic, and you must be so proud watching a moment like that, knowing that you laid the path for him. So that must be an honor, a badge of honor to carry around.
Absolutely.
So talking a little bit post football, you're down in Tampa these days in the sunshine, good part of the world, and post football, what does life look like for Mike Neal?
It takes a while to figure out. I think that, like we talked about before, when you leave the game and you leave unexpectedly, because I didn't know, that my career would be cut short because of an injury, and not because I couldn't play. I decided to walk away because I knew at that point I was tired. I had a lot of surgeries. I had little kids, and I'm like, okay, what's life for them if their dad can't walk at 35 years old because of a hip? And I played 2 contracts, 7 years, and made enough money. So I figured, I'm not just an athlete. I graduated from college with 2 degrees. I can make it happen off the field too. And it took me about 1.5 years. I tried to figure out what I wanted to do. I thought about going back to school to get a PhD in medicine. And I was like, nah, I really can't do that. And I talked to a lot of people around the circumstances at the time, and they was like, well, learn how to let your money make money. So real estate became that vehicle for me. So I ended up going to real estate school, took the 63-hour licensing course in 1 week. And people are like, why did you do that? I'm like, because if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go all in. So I took it. I'm
not surprised, funny enough, just after talking to you for the last hour.
Yeah, I did. And it was rough. It was 8-hour days. And the only time when I decided to do it, the class was an hour away. So I was driving an hour to and from class every day, 8 hours, just studying something I had no clue what I was doing. I left there, hung my license under Keller Williams, and realized that being a realtor wasn't something I really desired. So I chased a lot of investors in the area after about a year of being there, and kind of got put into a group with high-level investors, which is why I'm nestled into now. But I think the vehicle for me is just understanding financial literacy, how to make money make money for you. And if you can do that, you make the life around you a lot easier, especially leaving from the NFL. So I love what I do. It's a headache. Right now, I'm currently sitting in front of 6 monitors. I'm always looking at stuff, and just learning how to be a pro at that too. It takes time. At first I thought I could do it instantaneously, that I would be successful at it. But like with anything, you got to lay a foundation. You got to put the work in, and you got to understand what you're doing. And I learned that the hard way. I thought it would be a money-making machine right away, but I had to humble myself and realize that I'm going to have to put as much effort into this as I did in football. So it's paying dividends now. It's not where I want it to be, but being a person that's never really satisfied, I don't know when I'll actually come to being satisfied with it. But, my biggest thing is just, like I said, be able to make investments, create cash flow, be able to produce generational wealth, and then become some type of business mogul. I can see myself doing it. So the opportunity is there too.
Well, talking about life after football, there's quite a sad story about the first astronauts in space. They put all their focus and energy into achieving that one goal of making it to space. So much so that when they come back to the Earth, they found life difficult and even dealt with depression because they'd accomplished what they wanted to achieve and didn't have goals beyond making it to space. There are parallels in that story for professional athletes, right? You enter the system from a young age and that's all you know. Then your career ends and it's like, well, what do I do now? Can you relate to that story in some way, Mike?
It's funny because I never planned on going to the NFL. I didn't like football. And I think the biggest thing that I've always had for myself was just a willingness to compete, and not compete against everybody else. Is how damn good could I be at whatever it is I choose to be. And that's how it came about with real estate. And I didn't have a goal to be a real estate agent. When I retired, I didn't have a goal in mind. I didn't want to go back to school. I didn't think that I was going to retire as early as I did. But life has a way of teaching you things. And you're 100% right. Depression is very, very real. I think that if you look at the stats, 80% of us leave the NFL broken divorce after 3.25 years in the NFL, and a lot of them go through major depression. You have to sit down and talk to people. It's difficult. You got to think. You're 21 years old. You built this whole career. Now you have to leave and go do something that doesn't require you to physically be in tune with it. Now you have to be able to use more than that. So it was difficult. I think over the past 2 years, it's been extremely difficult. I can tell you there's been multiple times within those past 2 years I wanted to quit real estate. I'm like, I could just go coach football because that's what I'm used to. But I think that, like we talked about before, hitting those hurdles, I've had surgeries. I had to overcome those. So I have to overcome that. It's not because I don't think that I'm wasting my time or that it won't be worth it. It's just a simple fact that, no, this is what I set out to do and I'm not going to quit. And because of that, I've been able to sustain. And I've been doing this on my own for a while now, but just to develop a team, to be able to be persistent on a day-to-day basis. And then once again, it comes back to my family. My brother's now in the NFL. Well, what do I teach him when he leaves the NFL? So now that game becomes, don't spend your money, save your money, but let's look at every single avenue where you can create passive income. Yeah. If it's real estate, if it's e-commerce, if it's building a business, selling that business, how can we do that? And now you reverse engineer that. Where do you start at? And then what's the end goal? And then when you get to that goal, what do you do after that? You know, for me, I don't do the 5-year plan, 10-year plans. I pick a goal, I go with it until I achieve it. And then once I get to that goal, to be able to sustain that one and now look for the other opportunities. But in that, you start to find other opportunities, because as you become good at one thing, doors open through networking. So who knows where it'll end at, you know, but right now I have a goal to be able to make the amount of money I did in real estate that I did in the NFL. And once I achieve that goal, then what's next? Commercial real estate. And once you achieve that goal, what's next?
Yeah.
You know, probably doing some type of motivational speaking, who knows? But it's to teach my kids how to do the same thing. So you just have to be in tune with that and understand that it's just a process, man. And if you follow the process and be in love with it and understand that everything good comes through that process, you know, you'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Good advice. I mean, man, I can see you on stage already. That's happening. So anyway, listen, wrapping up, because you know, you've been very generous with your time, and I thank you for that. But we talked about morning routine before. Post football now, what does your morning routine look like?
I am a creature of habit, man. I still wake up probably a little bit earlier now. I'm up at 3 o'clock every single day. And it's a little bit more fine tuned. So I'm up at 3 o'clock every single day, and it's in steps, right? So for me, I had to find a way to win outside of football. And when I first retired, it was a little bit different, but you know, I'm up at 3. I go straight to my espresso machine, give me a double shot of espresso. I have this 15-minute prayer that I listen to. So I let that go for 15 minutes. Then after I listen to that, I'm in the Inversion Table, which is something that flips you upside down and reverse blood flow and create space, because I am an athlete, you know, so I have to take care of my body. Then when I'm done with that, literally close on out the doors to the gym. I'm in the gym for 2 hours, come home. I'm eating breakfast. After that, I'm jumping right into meetings with my small team with real estate to figure out what it is that we need to do to make everything 1% better every single day. And that's pretty much how I start my morning. It's literally the same exact thing over and over every single day. And people are like, you don't get tired of it? I'm like, no, because it works. You know, and I know that I did this before and it worked. And you have to go back to those things that work. So that's my morning routine, man. And I try to get back home early enough to see my kids walk out the door to go to school. Because ultimately, the one job that I love more than anything is being a dad. So, you know, that's pretty much me. It sums it up, man. I stick to what I know, and I know that it works. And I'm just that weight room does everything for me. It's where I can think clear. It puts me back in the mode of something that I'm used to doing. It's creating a winning habit. That one win motivates me to continue to win throughout the day. So I just go back to what I know and create small wins, and the rest takes care of itself after that. So.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to be said about getting the day off on a positive start. But you mentioned about, what was the inversion thing?
So it's called an inversion table. So when I left the NFL, I had, long story short, I had 3 bilateral sports hernia repairs 3 consecutive years in a row. The last one that I had, they ended up doing a hip surgery. They cleared all the cartilage out of my hip, did a microfracture surgery in the hip, and I don't have any cartilage in my right hip. So what the inversion table does is it's pretty much like a teeter. You get in it and it flips you completely upside down. Yeah. And it's really, really good for the spinal. It increases the amount of, just lengthens the spine. For me at the hips, kind of pulls those joints out, extract them a little bit to create synovial fluid going through those joints every single day. Helps with posture, helps with blood pressure, helps with a whole lot of things, digestion, even brain health. You know, we literally standing straight up and down all day and gravity pulls down. So you reverse that. And it helps the body flush out all the toxins and stuff like that. So I'm in there every single day for about 15 or 20 minutes. I hang completely upside down. And a lot of times, you know, it helps me think too. So it wakes me up. You know, it has a lot of benefits when I get in there, and I enjoy it though. I really do. And you know, my kids like to get in there. They like to flip back and forth. But it's really, really good for athletes, man. I think that you know, a lot of people with back issues, SI joint issues, it's really, really good for you to get in there. So yeah, man,
cool. I'll have to give it a try. You've gone on Wim Hof on us. Have you heard of Wim Hof?
No, what's that?
He does cold showers every day. He starts the day with icy cold shower, and he thinks it gets the blood going and things like this. But this is you're the new the modern day Wim Hof.
Yeah, you know what the funny thing is? Probably about a month ago, somebody asked me about that. Do you believe in taking those cold showers? I'm like, if it worked for you, work for you. I'm used to getting in the cold tub, so it really wouldn't bother me to jump in the shower. It's freezing cold. It wakes you up, man. It gets those endorphins going. Actually, some people, it just depends. It can put you in a positive mood, or some people that don't like the cold probably get pissed off. But, you know, hey, to me, I really don't. I'm not bothered by it, man, if I had to do it. But, yeah, I stick to my routines, man. They work.
Yeah. Good advice. All right. Well, listen, hey, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. You've got a fantastic career, but you're an even better human, and I appreciate that.
Man, Rob, I appreciate you having me, man. Anytime you need me, you know where to find me.
So that's the first episode of the Grind Academy. I was a little nervous, but I needn't have been. Mike was an incredible guest with a positive attitude towards everything he does in sport, life, and business. I hope you were as inspired as I was by Mike's savage mentality. In the coming weeks, I'll be chatting with best-selling author of Rise and Thrive, Lisa Blackshaw, about mastering your morning routine and setting the tone for the day. I'll also have an inspiring entrepreneur who's disrupting the PA industry and a CEO who transitioned industry, offering her unique leadership advice. If you like the content, please leave me a review and then head on over to my Instagram page and follow grind.equity. If you want to have the podcast delivered straight to your inbox, you can sign up at grind-equity.com. Thanks again for listening to the podcast today.